Yeah, say hello to all y'all. I'm just go wave, and then we'll get on the frame. And we're about to get started on her cue.
All right, we are live on Facebook. I'm here today with Joe Kims. Thank you so much for coming by and being a part of this. Really excited to have you. As you know, I'm a life coach, and I talk a lot about learning to thrive at work. And so I thought the perfect guest we have today is Joe Kim. He is a marketing manager and entrepreneur. And I was just going to share a little bit. Actually, we should talk about first how we first met. That was like a long time ago. And the reason why Joe made such an impression on me a long time ago, that was back in the days when I was a musician and touring songwriter, and I was getting through with one of my shows. Joe made such an impression on me because after the show was done, the band was breaking down and everything. You wrote a note. You had actually taken the time to write a note, and you do that for a lot of people, right? So that made an impression on me right away because Joe's the kind of guy who goes out of his way. He makes you feel like you're a priority, and I think that's entirely why people love working with him. It doesn't matter what job you're on or what endeavor, people really know they feel like they're important when they're with you. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
So, hello everybody. I just actually got back. So, for about the last 10, 11 years, I've worked in logistics as a marketing manager, where we would set up events, or I would be behind the scenes. So I would be the guy that when you go to an event, you would wonder, okay, well, when everything's all set up, who actually did all this? Who is the brains? Nobody really thinks of that. It's just like building of a house. You just don't really know like who set up the foundation of the house. So, but yeah, I used to just travel the country, 30, 40 states every year. And actually started a little organization about 4.5 years ago, and working with a lot of younger adults, teaching them how to make better decisions. So, but yeah, she's absolutely right. It's a pretty interesting story how we met, actually. So,
yeah. So now I read here when I was looking through your bio that you have partnered with a variety of companies to provide flexible solutions, and you've also been a brand advocate of several Fortune 500 companies. Now, can you tell us more about that, where you're literally driving the vehicle of some of these companies? Tell us about that.
So part of the travel, we would actually be working with a brand in Janie. It would be a particular goal that has to be met, if it's to penetrate the brand or if it's to let people know more about anything that's innovative with the brand itself. So some of these vehicles that you would drive would be anywhere from SUVs that were custom wrapped to buses that were gutted out, 1970s buses, and
wow.
RVs and all these different things. And it's interesting when you see everything being put together. It's really cool that's the event. Your vehicle is the event. And the whole point of it, even with today, we're in the world of attention. So experiential marketing has definitely been the staple to getting people's attention. And so spending millions of dollars on a vehicle, and it's in your hands. They hand you the keys, like, here you go, drive this $2 million customized vehicle, be safe. And that's it. So
Great. So actually tell us more about your experience with experiential marketing and how that's affecting the landscape and the people that they're trying to reach.
Well, and you guys probably already know, we live in that society where with all of social media, it's weird how when people tend to grasp something, if it's not an innovative thing, if it's something it's been around longer than we expected. So experiential marketing has been around for hundreds of years. And for you to get somebody's attention, to get to finally the bottom line of a sale, you have to get somebody's attention. And so when you're representing big brands, you have particular messages that you're trying to pass along, and they may only give you 5 phrases or 5 words, and they want you to really think on your feet as creative ways to get somebody's attention, so that once you have them within a proximity, within a range, then you can actually share about what the brand, why the brand's there. Because you would go to places, festivals or concerts, and you just wonder why that company's there, because you know that they are a Fortune 500 company. They're multi-billion-dollar company for the most part. And it's like, why are they there? And it's really cool that you get to tell a different side of the story, kind of getting the customer to a more behind the scenes look to what the brand is up to. So it's been a pretty unique experience to learn different aspects. And I'm still surprised that it's not a college degree or program to be in experiential marketing, even though that's been the biggest communication with the world today. So.
Great. So with you being on the inside of that and experiencing that, can you share a little what you see happening? How is that changing when it comes to business and how you're trying to reach people? And do you see that as a big difference between generations, between how to reach people with marketing?
Janie, it's crazy because the way technology is going, we're live on the feed here, and actually I'm also live on Instagram. Want to wave to everybody there. The information is traveling so fast, and a company that would take about 50 years to have its longevity run has only a longevity run of maybe 7 years. They say in studies less than 10 years, and then the brand becomes irrelevant. So, and they're even saying that Facebook is, for example, could be irrelevant in the next 5 years. So experiential marketing it's starting to pick up, but in a way where you're almost steps behind, and you have to keep up with the way information's traveling and the way that if the brand is not keeping up, you don't really hear too much about brand loyalty anymore. It's more of, okay, what can you provide then and there right now? And so it's changed a lot, Janie, and I can't imagine that it's going to go back to tradition. It's just really going to constantly keep changing. You have to keep up with the market.
Absolutely. And that is someone who's on the inside of it, and why I have Joe here today. It's really good to discuss where we're going with business, where we're going as a work culture. And we can't stay on our laurels, rest on our laurels, and do the same things that we've always done. So I appreciate you sharing your firsthand experience on that. So what is the overall theme of what you do with your work?
My work. It comes from a book called The One Thing. My one thing is actually to connect. And that's the reason why I'm here, and that's the reason why I've got to experience a lot of different things. It's because I wake up every day thankful that I have today, but with today to do the one thing. Yes, there are other things that I have to deal with. I have to eat. I had to pick up my father from the airport this morning, and so but to connect, that's the one big thing. That's why marketing. That's why, to me, I believe we talked about this, that it's not necessarily that it's marketing that allows me to connect. Marketing was just a channel that I got to go through. It was the simpler channel for me to connect with other people. But I can connect with music. I can connect playing sports. I can connect with working out. I can connect with traveling. But that was the biggest thing, is that I can connect and communicate a message of some sort, whether it's my message or somebody else's message to the world.
Now, what was the impetus behind connecting? So we talk about the one thing. Everybody is, they've got something that they got to be excited about waking up to do every day. Tell us more about that. What drove you to think about that concept of connecting with people?
It's funny. There's a book that Simon Sinek wrote called, actually recently, called The Infinite Game. And the crazy thing is, I'm not connecting with a scoreboard. I'm not trying to score points on how many people I connect with. And connection doesn't really have a metric that you measure. Connection is just based on what happens when two people come together or multiple people come together. What kind of magic can you produce when you connect? And it's crazy because travel has broadened my perspective, and I traveled alone a lot. So for many years, I would actually just drive the vehicles, travel, and be at places where I'm just a complete stranger. So I had a lot of time to think. And so it took me a little while to think about this. And it's amazing that it's simple, but yet complicated. So that's what makes me wake up every day, no matter how much sleep or lack of sleep that I get. If I can connect with the next person, and if I could potentially either disrupt or change the trajectory of somebody's life in a positive way, of course,
Absolutely.
then I think that would be a mission accomplished for my day.
Excellent. For those of you that don't know, Simon Sinek wrote this book called The Infinite Game. Both of us have read it, and we were geeking out talking about some of the concepts about it. He talks about how it's like in the game of baseball. He was actually, the writer of the book was inspired by this concept, the infinite game, where so many people in life, they're worried about the bottom line. They're trying to make their businesses, their ends meet, and make these profits. But at the end of the day, we're not really winning if all we're doing is focusing on money. Mm-hmm. And he has some great concepts. And Joe just shared with you here how it affected him, how he looks at life as winning in the sense of relationships as opposed to the bottom line. And I love the book. I think the one concept I was going to touch on actually that Simon talks about in that book is called the existential flex. And that goes right back to what you were saying earlier about, especially with the experiential marketing, we can't do things the way we always have. Right. And if we don't, I mean, like you said, instead of having a span of 50 years of a company, it's now down to less than 10, if that, maybe 7 years. And so the existential flex that Simon Sinek talks about is when a leader of a company recognizes that you cannot go with the status quo. You cannot keep doing things the same way. Otherwise, you're in danger of becoming irrelevant. So tell me more. So today we've already sort of just naturally gotten onto the topic of how to inspire a positive work culture. What would you say? I was going to share that studying's up on your bio that there are so many people who vouched for you, and they would talk about how they would work with you, again, because you're dependable, you're professional. Mm-hmm. That is just the bottom line, the first thing. But that you have sort of that extra thing that they would say, I would definitely work with Joe again. Tell us more about that.
I think it's crazy that I've heard people say that Joe or JK, you actually have the it factor. I'm like, what is it? I mean, it's not a profession. It's not the movie. It's funny. I actually, my brother's in IT, and I actually just watched it a couple nights back. So it's none of those. But Janie, it's weird because if you're ever told in a room when you go to a place that, man, without, I don't know what I would have done without you. I don't know how the temperature of the room would have changed without you. You bring some kind of energy to the place every time. I don't know what it is in you. I don't know what you've been drinking, what you've been eating, whatever you've been intaking. I said, well, I take in my own spirit, I guess. But that, I think, in my belief, I don't think everybody has that. And I don't think really you could develop that. It might take 10,000 hours to develop that, but that's without having any kind of major distractions. Again, I wake up and meditate, and I'm thankful for my day. And they say leave your problems at the door. I pretty much leave all of it at home because I address it by meditating, so that what I could do best, I can go to a room, and I'm not trying to flex. I'm not trying to be arrogant about things that I do. It's just how I come off as, because if other people can, if it's that one person in the back of the room of about a party or something, and they're just sitting alone, I just wanted to just come and say, hey, just want to say hello and just wanted to welcome you. If you need anything, just don't be afraid, because I heard this a long time ago that for you to win in the life of other people, the lives of other people, you want to make sure that they're the most comfortable around you, that you're the person that the people are most comfortable to be around. Even though I could be energetic and fiery, and it could be scary if I get into a particular mode, I want to make sure that people are comfortable, no matter their personality, no matter their style. They can come up to me and say, hey, can I ask you something? Or, hey, can we just talk about, I don't know, Teletubbies? Cool. I don't mind. I don't mind talking about those things. So yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting that you say that. Talking about being a positive inspiration to everyone. I was just thinking, I had that thought, and then it just sort of disappeared again. I'll come back to that. So we had talked earlier when we were dreaming up this session to meet together, about your one thing and you connecting with people. Do you have something specific to each job that you do differently to connect with others?
As long as I know what so on a finite scale, on the finite mindset with the job, as long as I know what the end game is with the job. But connecting with people if you're working with people, connection applies universally. It doesn't matter where you're at. It's just sometimes you have to deal with titles and status and just labels that people are given for these roles. But and this is what travel has done for me, Janie, is that it's opened my perspective to become less and less and less biased. Because I've been to places where there were labels put on people because of race, because of gender. I mean, I thought gender was something that they shouldn't ever discriminate at this point, but there's still places where it's still discriminated upon. But it makes me embrace it. I don't hide into any of the labels, discretions, things of that sort. So it's opened up my perspective to say, you know what, in the end, they're a human being. They may have a different twang because they're from Montana, or they may have a fast accent because they're in New York. Doesn't matter. They're still people. And for me to take a step back to understand, okay, where my emotions are at, what am I trying to accomplish in the end? Yes, we're trying to get the sales goal. We're trying to get this house built. But Tim actually had a bad day. So because nobody's connecting with them, they're saying, well, you need to grow up, stop crying, or stop complaining. It's like, okay, these are some labels that you're putting on somebody because of a story you don't know. And I don't think anybody should be entitled to compare themselves, one, to also even give themselves a right to put a label or name on somebody that they have no idea what this person went through. They just probably had a stomach ache, or somebody just passed away in their family. It might be his wife. And you have to come in with that grace. Yes, there might be a slight slowing of the productivity, but I think, I even was told this, that if you want to run alone, you can run fast because you run at your own pace. Because if I'm driving by myself, my cousin, my father just told me, yeah, your cousin rides the same way, weaves in and out of traffic. I said, does she drive by herself? It's like, oh, all the time. But if you have somebody else in the car with you, you drive differently, but you actually end up going further because you're actually safer and you're not going to hit anybody. But that's the biggest thing. With companies, and back to the infinite game, I'm looking to help add value and work alongside those that's their goal. It's to go far, to the point where if the game ends, it's because they decided to step down from the game. Somebody else could step right into the same game and continue that. So it is pretty deep to talk about that, but we're not trying to take on a job just to see, okay, well, when can we get this finished? When can we hit these goals? It's more of how far can we go with this? So
definitely. I think that is so key when you think about a lot of times what I talk about when I'm teaching about work culture and thriving in it is we have to look at the big picture. And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we can get so laser focused into whatever the objective is that we forget the bigger picture of the people in our lives. And being able to look down and see from the structural standpoint is important, but at the end of the day, it's about the people. Yeah. And recognizing that, whatever your situation or gig or job is, that at the end of the day, the people are not the enemy. It's the situation you're looking at. And you get to a point where you can be in a place of maturity. Like you say, you spend a lot of time by yourself. And a lot of times as an entrepreneur, I get in that place too. And you have to remember at the end of the day, I've talked about this in one of my videos before where, I don't think about how much money I'm making. When I think about all my past jobs, I'm thinking about this person that made an impact on my life. And then in turn, how did I impact that person in turn? I don't remember how much money was made or what project. I try to remember, okay, did I help this person? Did that have a lasting impact? And that's what's going to change over. So
absolutely.
I appreciate you sharing that. So what challenges do you face day to day as an entrepreneur what do you deal with maybe that the average person doesn't deal with that sits at a desk job all day?
Wow. Goodness. Being on your own, it's tough enough as it is because we were all meant to connect and work together. Um, you are pretty much alone in a lot of things that you do, and um, you may not be skilled in a lot of things. And so for me to fight off stubbornness, to say that I actually need help, I'm still working on that, and I've graciously accepted help. I'm not there on the street corner begging for help, metaphorically.
Right.
But it's been more of a refreshing burden that's been taken off my shoulders as other people, that especially those that come up to you and say, look, let me help you. And it's not like they're desperate to earn your favor, but they legitimately want to help you. And so it's like I forget what movie, but the person, the character gets poison injected and he sees things, and it's instead of him seeing regular people, he saw like zombies or his worst fears. And so my biggest fear was that because I didn't want help, is because if they did it their own way, it wouldn't be done the right way. But again, that's a limited mindset, and that didn't help me. Because again, you work alone so much, and it's always your responsibility to come up with the solutions. If you have to come back home, it's like you're coming to your mom as a grown adult for help. And that was the message that I didn't want sent to me. But that's what's been perceived, especially in the industry that I work in, is that there are so many people that are victims of that label of you're being childish for going for help. It's like, but wait a minute, we have technology and we have the help and resources that we need. And it's just, no, you gotta be the man, you gotta be the woman, you gotta be the one to solve everything. It's like, and I'm looking back, I'm like, why was I thinking like that? But again, you get thrown into the whole pull of what everybody else is thinking. And I'm always still wondering who first thought of that you had to do everything by yourself, because we cannot do everything ourselves. We have 2 hands, 2 eyes, a nose with 2 nostrils, 2 ears. I mean, we don't have enough resources. If I had millions of hands, that would be perfect. I would do everything. I wouldn't have to use my brain. But
we were meant to be in community. That's actually something that I'd recently come out with a book, and one of the concepts I talk about is that the thing of not being able to ask for help. And there's 2 things that are going on right there. We focus too much on this idea of perfectionism, and perfectionism used to be seen as something positive because, yeah, you're driving for excellence, but excellence is not the same thing as perfectionism. And I feel, especially where we're going to and what people are waking up to, are we have to do things. We have to have community. And we do that by working not in enmeshment or codependency, but in a symbiotic way where everybody's strengths can come out. So it seems like you're hitting on that right there. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What made you realize, hey, there's something wrong with this, that I should be able to ask for help. I need to find community. Was there something there that became the impetus?
The unnecessary stress. I mean, it's literally banging my head on a steering wheel and trying to find a place like a wall so I can bang my head on a wall. So I heard that when you're stuck, you just bang your head on the wall. It affected my relationships. Financially, it didn't really affect that, but it really affected my relationships because you have people that care about you, that say that they're friends, but at a distance. They said, "Hey, good to see you," and they kind of like put a nice little stiff arm or a 10-foot pole and says, "You're a good guy to have, but you're just uncontrollable energy that we don't want around us." And so it was something that I didn't get firsthand because I'm traditional, hard-headed, and I did bang my head on the wall several times. It still didn't help, but I felt that my emotions getting involved too. Whenever I was given some kind of direction or some kind of coaching or mentorship, that I didn't accept it because I did look past their, didn't look and stop and look at their imperfections. I looked past it and assumed, okay, this is your roadblock. you should have overcame that. I put expectations on people I should never, ever put on people. They should set their own expectations. I should just let them go, basically. Now, if they're about to fall off a cliff, then I grab them. Says, don't fall off the cliff, metaphorically and in actuality. But that's what I have to. That's what I had to watch out for. And there's plenty other things. I've even started binging with drinking, not alcohol, but soda. I would probably drink three. Gosh, it was like three. So about 3 bottles of soda, three bottles of Coca-Cola a day. It's like 21 bottles of that stuff, because I learned that that sugar helped me with my potential depression and my stress. It just calmed me down, but it just kind of made me tired. I used to fall asleep just stressed out. So, but yeah, the stress really kicked in. It just, sometimes you just stop. You're like, what am I doing? Where am I at? And you're just lost. And you just have to stop. And you have to get help immediately. So.
Thank you for sharing and being so open with that. I think people are afraid to come forward and say, this is what I deal with on a regular basis. And especially, I think a lot of people watching, I know a lot of times, and I'm very sensitive to the fact that people watching videos or teachings of mine, they're in a work situation where they can't be open. You know, they don't want to rag on whatever situation it is corporately, but to be able to come on this broadcast and say, hey, you know what, somebody does struggle with this, and it's absolutely okay to reach out for help. Now, you do some coaching on your own as well. Do you feel like that experience has informed your perspective when it comes to how you coach others, and then being sort of on the other side of having been the mentee? Can you share about that?
Absolutely. It's Janie, I was also taught this principle. It's grace with the standard. Because we're human beings, we're all going to make mistakes. And I'm infamous and notorious for making, I think, probably over 1 million mistakes. If I could just count it, it would be a nice little T-shirt to make and say, I've been there, done it, have the T-shirt and everything. But grace with the standard. Yes, I do work alone a lot, but I do also work with other people, meaning the clientele, and when I have events set up, a lot of times I work with other people. And so through my experience, again, as long as either the goal or the rules or the principles are laid out first, as long as people are aware, and that's why I've seen people get in trouble. I've also got in trouble for not bluntly calling people out, but pulling them off to the side, and it just offended them. And it went up to an email to send an email that sends an email that sends another email to send a meeting that needs to set up another meeting to set up another meeting. All these unnecessary things because people are hiding. And for you to lay out the standard ahead of time, you quit hiding. You're exposed, because the standard that you lay out means two things: that they should live up to that standard. If they're with you, if they're not with you, then they don't have to follow the standard. Two, you have to follow the standard too. But you have to have grace. You can't be General Patton. You can't be any tyrant and yell at people. I even read a study that you shouldn't be yelling at your pets either, because it affects them psychologically. So imagine human beings. Yes, we can handle a lot of things, but getting yelled at is not, especially when it's derogatory and it's not encouraging. Now, it's helpful if you can encourage them in a way, yeah, you can do it, let's go. Then that's fine. I could accept that. But if there's no standard laid out, then it's a free-for-all. Then there are countless people that get to hide. This is the place you can hide, and you can leave these little things. The compound effect will come into place, and you're pretty much, you're done. But with the standard of no grace, there's going to be a higher turnover because there's no care. There's got to be a balance in the two. But I think you have to lay out the standard first. The grace it's human ingrained. I mean, when we were born, I can remember this, being a little baby to growing up as a kid, our parents, and you have a daughter, you and Gary, and to be able to raise her with a lot of grace. Yes, she's going to make a lot of mistakes. Is she speaking?
She's 4 now. Yeah,
Okay.
she's in pre-K. Oh, she speaks.
So
she lets her mind be known.
She's practicing. I'm helping you out with that. She's practicing. But see, that's the thing. It's like you're raising a child if you're working for a company. And a lot of contracts I take, I'm like a little newborn because a lot of companies I've never worked for before. So the industry of experiential marketing has helped me with coaching those, not just in that industry, but those that work at places where they have to constantly start over. They build their experience, but they start over. But they have to remember, okay, that when you're interviewing, you got to lay out your standards. If you need time off, let them know ahead of time. It's all these things that doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you a person with boundaries.
Right.
So
boundaries, they're so key. I talk about that all the time. I think people don't necessarily understand what that means, but in a sense, boundaries are needed for both people in different places of authority, whether they are the employer or the employee. And I think this is where you and I, why we get along so well, is we've been on both sides.
Yeah.
We've been the employee, we've been the employer. And in most cases, especially with the work you do, you're still in it every day in different places of authority. And I think that gives us the authority to be able to speak into situations, because you can't just barge into every situation and just be like, like you said, General Patton, and dictating to people. There need to be boundaries, and in new situations, people need to know what's expected of them. But at the same time, those boundaries are there to protect both the person in authority and without. So that's such a good point. So now, let's ask some fun questions. What's the most interesting gig you've ever done?
Oh my goodness!
Whatever you feel comfortable sharing, doesn't
Oh no, they're all interesting. Gosh, what was I have a few, but let me narrow it down. Okay, so yeah, this one was a good one. So on the road for 40 straight weeks, and this was a customized 40-foot food truck. They literally had to take this 40-foot truck, built this food truck where it was like a dispensary for nutrition bars. And our final stop was in Phoenix, Arizona. This is just with that particular marketing tour, we got a lot of time off because all we had to do is we had to sample us. So our bottom line was to sample a certain amount of boxes or amount of bars. It was just this thing that we had to just get rid of. And we went to all kinds of places, the Salvation Armies, to the food bank, we just had to make sure there was like a couple pictures. But my coworker, my co-manager actually flew back to Chicago. We actually had about, I think, a free week and a half in Phoenix. Great. So I said, I contacted the company. I said, look, I'm going to go out to Superstition Mountain or Camelback Mountain and take some pictures and just get some beauty shots and all that. And so I'm driving out. Well, I didn't know about Superstition Mountain. I actually went the wrong way and went over to Superstition Mountain. It's still a gold mine, and it's haunted. And there's a pack of coyotes that hang around and I know exactly why, because I tried to do all those things. So I left the truck, ran about a half a mile, took some beauty shots, came back. So you know what? Still sunlight out. Let's go. If you guys haven't boulder climbed before, that's where you have no equipment and you use whatever shoes you have and shorts, and consult with a professional with that. So I climb up about 3,000 feet, boulder climbing. I get a phone call. Phone falls. I fall.
Oh no.
And come tumbling down. Boom, 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 boom. Friend calls, it's like, what are you doing? I said, hanging up on you because you shouldn't be calling me while I'm climbing a mountain. It's like, oh my gosh, are you climbing a mountain in Arizona? It's like, yeah, let me call you back. And I get up to about 6,000 feet, and close to 6,000 feet, I fall again. And there's a base I fell down on. And I'm not trying to scare you guys, but adrenaline works in funny ways. And so I went to tell that whole story. I was actually attacked by 2 coyotes that same time, because they can smell blood from miles and miles away.
I'm sure.
Because I was bleeding, scratched up. And again, I made that choice. So, but we get back, and our final stop after Phoenix, we had to drop off everything in San Diego. So I come back, and the owner of the company's having a meeting with some prospective clients and some brands and stuff. And it's all right. Hey, these are 2 guys, our longest tour. So tell your story. I mean, what was your favorite, or what was the thing that you did in Arizona? And my coworker's like, yeah, I did this, this. Says, what about you? I'm like, do you want the truth or do you want something a little more saying? It's like, tell the truth. I said, and I literally lifted up my shirt. I didn't realize I had 3 cracked ribs and my inside of my shoulder. I'm like, ooh, something hurts. And the owner of the company literally falls over his chair. The customers go and gasp, like, are you okay? I said, I'm just kidding. It's okay. And I said, but the vehicle's in one piece. Don't worry. I may hurt myself once in a while, but your brand is in one piece.
That goes to show. See, he goes out of his way for his brand, doesn't care about himself, but
all out.
The vehicle's okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there's plenty of stories. But with that, I enjoyed that particular tour because I got to see 40 states in about 40 weeks. Some were maybe 3-day stays, but I got to see, and we got to drive through a lot of beautiful places. And again, when you're on the road, you get to think about a lot of things. That was before podcasts became big. I, again, started traveling about 10 years ago. Podcasts weren't that big, and the interviews like this weren't really even thought of. It was more of, okay, well, we're going to record this quietly and just put this in audio format. But no, this is, we started blogging a lot about a lot of things, documenting, and with my Instagram, I'm actually taking some of the old pictures that I took from about 10 years ago, 7 years ago, and writing stories based on what I learned. So it's really cool. I don't really for those that are maybe beer connoisseurs, if you like your beer and you want to go to different breweries, cool. If that works for you, do it, because there's a lot of breweries out there. If you like the baseball parks, the stadiums during baseball season, you can try their signature foods. And so that's what I enjoyed about the 40 weeks, because I didn't have a choice to stay for a longer period of time. I had to go pick up the stuff and go and find out new things to do and new people to meet. So but yeah, that's been I've had a lot of other more impactful, but that was probably the more fun I've had.
Very cool. Now, do you feel that you taking some of these old stories and pictures and repurposing, do you feel like that's another way to connect, or do you prefer still in person connecting with people?
In person. I mean, with older archive pictures, videos, things like that, it could probably connect with a generation that communicates that way. Again, you got those that are extremely outgoing, you got those that are not, that are more reserved, that are more, I would say, educated communicators. I think even with those two types of people, in person still matters. Technology, in my opinion, helps you communicate information faster. But if it's communicating the heart and the spirit, I think you should do that in person. I heard this, that you want to read good books, you want to meet good people, but you also want to go to good places, like good conferences, good events. And when you go there, the experience is different. And again, my impression when I met Janie about 10 plus years ago is I could have listened to her music and it had been just like any other good piece of music. But the reason why I still have some of her tracks that I listen to on the road, which you didn't know that, I still listen to some of your songs.
Thank you.
It's better when I was at the First Center at Georgia Tech and saw you perform. Still have the picture of you with the, I'm drawing a blank, but the keyboard.
Yes.
And your keyboard. And still have that picture. It's funny, I see the keyboard back there.
Yeah.
But I think the in-person, it really helps because, one, it prevents you from hiding if you have to address something. But two, you build that familiarity with somebody so that if you have to address something because of an imperfection, you're more comfortable. It's still uncomfortable, but you're not going to hide, because then you're not going to be, you don't feel the sense of being judged. It's always a deeper meaning to me whenever it's connecting in person. And that's why I was told, wherever you're at, connect where you're at. You connect with an Uber driver today because you can use the services, and I love using it because you meet different people that way. Go to the grocery store, and even if somebody's short and trying to be smart aleck to you, it's like, oh, that's awesome. Okay, cool. And you keep that, embrace it, like, oh, this is cool. So yeah.
Definitely. There's something to be said about that in-person connection, because even though we have so much with social media, whatever it is, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, I mean, there's so many ways, but then you're right, people do hide behind their accounts. Mm-hmm. And that's what leads to these uncivilized discussions about things, because it's like you can keep that anonymity instead of realizing this is a person
Yeah.
that you're actually connecting with. And so I appreciate that. I think a lot about how, it's funny you said your brother is in IT. Gary, my husband's in IT as well, but he never ever uses what he does or his position as, this is not something that he looks at. He looks at the person. And I like sharing about how, whether it is an intern or somebody in custodial services, he doesn't care. He treats them as a person, and they absolutely have value wherever they're at. And I think if we start seeing whatever companies or situations we're in as a community, then we're going to start treating people differently. I think this is one of those things where people haven't really necessarily seen that bird's eye view yet of the structure of it. Yeah, please. And so one thing I was thinking about as you're sharing about the different types of things that you do for work, how does all of this, and you seem like you share it like it kind of bleeds over anyway, but how does all this affect your personal life, how you view things, and what would you like to see happen personally for yourself?
Ooh, that's a pretty strong question. You're right, Janie. It does blend into the personal life. Again, as long as I'm keeping or addressing things in my personal stuff, crap that I go through at the door, if I address it, it's, I think with the grace and standards, I believe if you're, for me, marketing and I guess you can say my personality or my personal life pretty much tie together because it's connecting with people, it's communicating stuff, it's sharing some fun stuff, it's about having fun, and it's about accomplishing something, but it's in a fun manner. It kind of becomes part of my life anyways. But for the ones, my brother definitely is not the personality for IT. He just picked the field because it was more stable work. So for him to be able to adapt and be a chameleon to his personality, he told me he had to temper a lot of his personality just to get the job done. But when he had moments to share with other people, he had to have a lot more of a buffer for other people, because a lot of other people may not understand this message that we're sharing, or may not understand what my brother is trying to do with being flexible with other people. So it's tough because at a place where the company doesn't encourage, for example, you to be you, it always boils down to the question, why are you there? And are you there in the grand scheme of things to be the best IT person, to be the top of the company, but why? And I think the question always gets asked incorrectly of what do you want to do? Because I think if you know who you are, so your personality or who you are, and you identify how you want to live, then you definitely, it's just like going to California. There's $5 million in a locker. You know the combination. Only you can get it, but it expires in about 10 hours. Go. And time zones don't matter. Go. I would literally like, all right, see ya. You have 100. It's like, we'll take away, we take away all your money, keep your ID, you keep your phone, but whatever my battery's at, 40%. All right, go. You got to go. $5 million is at stake. It's like, okay, I know my end goal in mind, but how do I get there? And the fastest way would be, of course, to fly. But if it's to get to your keyboard, you don't take an airplane, you walk. So, but a lot of people assume that they should get a car. It's like, okay, you're only going next door. You don't need the car. You're going to waste time. And so it's interesting. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that for other people, honestly. Just for me, I made sure I understood what my whole purpose was, why I'm here, and to align. And that's why I've told this to somebody that I don't want to be defined as somebody that did one thing, like one job, as one profession, but as one function, yes, but not, well, you were always a musician.
That's right.
So the label you asked.
One-dimensional.
Yeah. And but that's the label I've been seeing with other people and just going out. It's like, so how do I define you? or, who are you? It's like, well, I am a CPA. It's like, okay, is that it? You have a ring, so you must be married. So
Right.
you got to be a father. So that's 2. So oops, woo, the alarm has gone off. But yeah, I don't really know. I don't have a complete answer to that. It's just depends on your situation. Are you taking on what you're taking on so that you can stabilize your life, cover, make your living for now, but what are you doing after that? Are you actually building that life so that you can be the real person that you should be? So
absolutely. Well, that's what I was going for. I wasn't looking for any concrete answers, but I think you shared a gem there where it's not just the go to the 8 to 5 job every day just to make ends meet. And absolutely, there are things that need to be taken care of. But I think especially in like Western society, where as Americans, you just said we're labeled by what we do. I mean, you go to other countries, they don't care. They're like, so how are you? Like you said, you could be as in my case, I'm also a wife and a mother, but people focus on, no, what do you do for a living? This and that. But that is I feel like that cheats us out of all we could be when it comes to our purpose and our destiny. And it takes time to figure that out, and I share a lot about how I know that especially people who are working full-time jobs, like I don't have time to think about that. I got to do this and I got to pick up my kid or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like, what is driving you? And I think it's so key that we have these conversations to talk about how that does bleed into the rest of our lives. So I really, really appreciate you coming by today. This has been I'm so thrilled to have you. So thank you for doing that.
No, thanks for having me. This was a wonderful experience, great conversation, and for the viewers out there that had the privilege to watch this, Janie's got a lot of great things, and who she's about is the reason why I was willing to take the time. And I think it's only been a 12-hour maybe turnaround from coming back from a 4,000 miles, 6-day trek up and down the mountains and everything. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. And
I appreciate that so much. I know you have a busy schedule, so I really, really appreciate it. I respect that so much that you took the time out to do this.
Well, thank you. This was very valuable, and yeah, I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Well, let me share. How can people reach you so that they know?
Let's see. On Facebook, you can find me as Joe J.K. Kim. Okay. Joe, Joe, and JK Kim. And then, of course, you can find me on Instagram at JK the Brand.
JK the Brand.
JK the Brand. Right now, I'm on a 2-year series of documenting my not just my travels, but my journey as an individual and lessons that I've learned. And to see some really killer pictures, and I would say encouragement on the workout side. You might consult with a personal trainer to make sure everything's correct.
No, I see some of that stuff you're doing with the kettlebells and all that. That's like serious stuff. So no, I mean, but I love it because it's like you're everywhere. It's like every day there's like some different landscape, some picture that you're taking. So
yeah, you just I don't know. It's cool that when you go through like the geography book or the history books, you actually are there, and it's like I remember hearing this. This is from a father who I actually am thankful to call as a mentor. Him and his wife, and he said that he didn't want to spoil his son with things, but he wanted to spoil his son with experiences.
Yes.
I said, okay, I respect that a lot, and so I don't have kids yet, but to be able to do that as an adult, I could set that example for future kids. So, but yeah, it's those landscapes are real. I've been safe for 99.9% of them.
So do not do a selfie when you're up on that mountain, please.
No, you stay away from all that. And just climb the mountain if you at your own risk, and don't ever carry a selfie stick. Just keep it in your pocket and take a picture at the peak.
Exactly. No, but that's so true. It's like when you think of yourself as a kid, you remember the experiences. I remember family vacations. I don't think we really took them that often. Maybe we went to Disney World, I think, once a year or something. But you remember those times. It's like you don't remember all the things, just things, just accumulating forever and ever. But I appreciate it. Thanks again. I just have a couple announcements here. My book, The Power of Inclusion, is available on Amazon Kindle. And a lot of the concepts we talked about today, it's about 7 stages to a highly thriving work culture. We touched on a little bit of the perfectionism and the community and the family atmosphere. So it's available now. It's just $6.99. So And another way to be able to reach me, if you're just getting on this and just finding out, janieliou.com is my main website, and my prime purpose is the business side of it. So thanks again, Joe. It's always a pleasure. I'm glad we got to catch up like this and talk about, what's going on in our lives and, what's important to us. I really appreciate it.
It's been a while, but glad to catch up with you. And yeah, many more to come.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.